I'm like pumped to hear that you hired somebody pretty early on to do that stuff. How hard was that to find somebody? How did you find somebody to actually do that for you?
See, this is I'm very maybe it's the software mindset in me from living in the Bay, but how like I want to learn something so I know what to delegate and then I want to make it as passive as possible. And in fact, we have an ad running on Craigslist all the time for stalkers because we're constantly scaling. But yeah, I mean it was super simple. I the great thing is like if you look at Craigslist for example for job ads, they have what's called a gig section, which is like your Uber Eats, DoorDashy type jobs where it's like, hey, you just turn on the app and you work when you want to work type of thing. And that's where I post these. I'm like, I don't care if you're an early riser and you want to stalk at 5 in the morning, like one of our stalkers does, who's a teacher, or you're a night owl and you want to stalk at 10 p.m. while you're listening to some tunes and whatever. Yeah, it's I always start out like $20 an hour typically, and then after 90 days if they do a good job might bump it up to $25 an hour, and then after a year maybe give them a percent of profits, and then after 2 years maybe give them a percentage of equity in the route.
Nice. So you're really trying to incentivize these guys to stay and like
Yeah.
curb that turnover, because I mean the turnover kills. We feel that a lot in the laundromats. I mean any of those sort of like low paying jobs that really anybody can't, like a lot of people don't want to, but anybody can really do it. They're just hard to keep good employees, hard to find and hard to keep good employees. But I like that there's a path of progress there for employees, and I think it's pretty genius. And since your margins are so high on the vending side, giving up doing a profit share or even like an equity split kind of makes sense. I mean, do you mind sharing like ish like profit, like what you offer once they get to that point?
Yeah, 5%. And then
Nice.
equity, you can set it up where it's like 5% over 4 years. So it's just like a standard like vesting schedule. So
Yeah.
you kind of incentivize the long term. And that's what I did. The guy that I hired to stock my first two machines, he was working 3 hours a week to start.